Hello, everyone. Thank you for coming to our session. We're going to talk about accessibility for all, best practices for making an accessible Lightning experience. I'm Shreyans Jain. I'm a software engineer here at Salesforce.
And I'm Adam Rodenbeck. I'm an assistive technology expert here at Salesforce.
And before we really begin, just some forward-looking statements. Please make your purchase decisions based on products and services that are available today.
And we also really want to thank you for coming. Thank you for being customers, being a part of the community, but most of all for having an interest in accessibility. It's a really important topic, and just being here will hopefully gain a lot for you.
So here's the agenda for today. We're going to talk about what is web accessibility, why should you really care, what are some of the accessibility features that are built in the Lightning experience. We'll also talk about some of the best practices that you can follow, whether you're an admin or a developer, and we'll wrap it up with a small demo. So what is web accessibility? W3C, that's the leading body for the web, defines it as that it means that websites, tools, and technologies are designed and developed so that people with disabilities can use them.
So this is a really great definition of accessibility, but I feel like it's missing a small piece, and that's it calls out, in particular, people with disabilities. And in the age of equality, we really would like to say that it's for everyone to experience and perceive web technologies.
So speaking about people with disabilities, let's have a look at how these people interact with the web and the computer. So on the screen, you can see what is called a refreshable braille display, and it allows people with low vision or people who are blind to interact with the computer. They also make use of another assistive technology that is called a screen reader, and it reads whatever is on the screen. Today, we are going to focus a lot on screen readers, but really you can take the ideas from today and apply to all experiences. There could be some set of users in your organization who are colorblind. Here in the picture, you can see on the top left is something that a person with a normal color vision would see. And then you can see what someone who's green blind or red blind or blue blind would see. Here's another example of assistive technologies, and we all know about it. This is called closed captioning, and it not only helps people who are deaf or who have difficulty in hearing, but it actually affects us all. Because, for example, we are watching a movie and it's in some other language. It really helps to have those closed captions on so that we understand and consume the content. Here's yet another example. This is called a single switch, and this is used by people with motor disabilities. And this allows them to interact with the computer, and it basically acts as both mouse and a keyboard. So you might be wondering, why should I care? Well, according to the World Health Organization, over 1 billion people, that's about 15% of the world's population, have some form of disability.
And while 1 billion people, it sounds like a lot, it does to me anyway, if you flip it around and consider that when you talk about 15% of people who have disabilities, if you're developing products that people cannot use who have disabilities, then you're leaving out and only caring about 85% of the population. And I know that none of us would like to have an application that we know people are not going to be able to use.
Here's another fact. About 253 million people worldwide live with some form of vision impairment. And around 466 million people have disabling hearing loss. Still not convinced? Well, let's take an example. Let's say you went for ice skating and you fell down and you broke your right arm. Now, guess what? You can't use the computer as you're used to. In that particular case, having a screen reader or even keyboard navigation would greatly help you and would allow you to operate and interact with the computer as you're used to. Here's another example. Let's say you went to a doctor and for an eye exam, and the doctor decided to dilate your eyes, and then you become really sensitive to light. In that case, you can make use of the assistive technologies like, you can invert the colors, set the contrast, or even adjust the brightness of your screen to your taste. Finally, if you're someone like me and you wear glasses, and let's say you have an important project to finish, and somehow you broke your glasses, in that case, these assistive technologies would be applicable to you as well, and it would greatly help you to interact with the computer. So now Adam will talk about some of the accessibility features that we have built in the Lightning experience.
All right, well, thanks, Trey. One of the first things I want to talk about is something those of you who used our classic experience might recognize, and that's the fact that we used to have a checkbox that you could enable, and it created a different experience for people who use assistive technologies. And it helped out in some ways, but the problem with creating an interface that's separate for people with assistive technologies is that you then have two code bases that you have to maintain, which doubles the work. And oftentimes, that second one for the users of assistive technologies, through no fault of ours, I'm sure, falls behind, and it's not feature parity with the regular user interface. So what we did is created an experience which we believe everyone can use, and that is going to follow all of the guidelines out there so that assistive technologies can interact with it in just one interface. So our next one, this is the Lightning data table. And what's really cool about this is that we were able to create an HTML table which is accessible for people who use a keyboard. For years, screen reader users have been able to access tables because of the technologies that were built into them. But for a keyboard-only user, using the data table was very complicated. And we'll show you more about this during the demo. So this is our Lightning app builder. We're really proud of this one. This is an interface which allows drag and drop. So we're actually able to interact with the items that are on the palette using a screen reader, bring that to the canvas, and navigate between the items that are already on the canvas. So we've created an accessible experience where an admin or a developer is able to use this tool and change the experience that your users might see. And so maybe the most important one here is our SLDS, the Salesforce Lightning Design System, and the website lightningdesignsystem.com. And what's important here is that we have created a number of components that already have the accessibility built in. All you need to do is use the ones that we created and use the website to look at the accessibility notes that define how you should use the different attributes. And so Shrey is going to talk to us a little bit about best practices using some of these components.
Yeah, thanks, Adam. So like Adam already mentioned, whenever you're trying to build something new, just have a look at either the Lightning Design System or Lightning Components documentation. And you would have the accessibility features for free. And just be sure to read the documentation and make sure you follow the guidelines there. So here we are going to cover some of the use cases that you can encounter. So let's say you're an admin and you've been tasked to create this field on the account object. And basically, this field is essentially an image. And if your account has a high priority, you want to show 5 stars. And if it is low priority, you want to show 1 star. So let's see how you can do that. So if you were me, I would think okay, I have to output an image. So let me, in my formula, let me put the image first, and then describe the cases. This is right. You can still, display, and you actually get the job done. But this is not really accessible. Can anyone tell why?
All it will say is customer priority star rating and a screen reader. It won't tell you what the star rating is.
Perfect.
Yeah, so let's try to fix this. Oh,
Sorry. Yeah, so it will describe the alternative text for each picture, but it will be the same. And so there's not a way to indicate the number of stars that are in each of the graphics.
So let's try to fix that. So here you can see it's the same formula. Basically, now what we did is we describe our case outside, and then we describe each of these cases as a different image. And what it allows us to do is it allows us to output different alternative text for each of those cases. So now someone with low customer priority would have still 1 star, but like you can actually see the alternative text, and a screen reader would, when it goes there, would know and would not, the screen reader's users would not lose that information. And we will demo this shortly.
This one was really great. When Shrey and I were putting together the talk, we discussed this, and oftentimes I've seen over the years where people use either a red, green, yellow to indicate what's happening on an account. It's really frequent. So the idea here is that you can then describe each one of those graphics. So this one was one I was very excited when Shrey and I discussed it.
Let's look at another example. So again, this is a very common use case. You have a button, and this button has some kind of icon on it. So we are very used to seeing a magnifying glass, which means it's a search, or in this case, something like a round arrow, which means that it will probably refresh. So let's see. So we've been tasked to create this button, so let's see how we can do that. Again, the first instinct that comes to your mind is, okay, it's a button. Let me use the lightning button component, and then I'll just provide an icon name, and I'll be done. So again, visually this is okay, but when you think about the screen readers, there is no text associated with that button, so they might not know what that actually means. So let's try to fix that as well. So in those situations, rather than using the lightning button component, you can use the lightning button icon component. Why? Because it has an additional attribute called alternative text that you can use to describe what pressing that button would actually do.
This one is so important, and I see oftentimes at the top there'll be what I'm sure are icons, and all I hear is button, button, button. Or depending on your screen reader, it might say unlabeled button 1. And you could think that, well, then I always know that the pencil is going to be unlabeled button 1, but that changes for every button group. So it's really useless information other than I know that one of these 3 things will do something, and I just hope it's not cancel.
Okay. Moving along. So we all have to deal with forms at some point. And this is a very common design pattern that you see on the web that oftentimes design teams want really simple forms, so they say, well, skip the labels. Let's just have placeholders. As you can see in this particular example, we just have the placeholders, the first name and last name, but we do not have any labels describing those input fields. So okay, so this was the ask from the design team. So how can you do that? This is really funny. So the lightning input, if you're using lightning input component, the label field is actually mandatory. But what we have seen is people get around this requirement by just putting empty text, white space, so to get around this requirement. And then they go about their merry ways using just the placeholder, and they think, okay, job done. I did what the design team asked me to do. But this is a very bad idea. Let's see how we can fix this. So here's a slightly better version of that. You can still use the lightning input component, but rather than skipping label, still provide the label. But then you can hide it with the help of the variant attribute and just say label hidden. And this will achieve the same effect as what we saw. So oftentimes when we go around and do some hacky things, it's actually better to just do the right thing. And it will take care of accessibility most of the times. But let's actually see how we can make it even better. Well, let's just put labels, right? What do you think, Adam?
It's a hard one, because you run into this a lot with designers, but let me tell you a little bit about the issues that you can have. So placeholder text isn't wrong by itself. It is wrong by itself, but it alone is not a problem. Screen readers read placeholder text with no issue. But what can happen is if you only use placeholder text, as soon as I type something in the field, either intentionally or inadvertently, then the label's gone, and I don't know what that is. So if maybe I accidentally got to the page and screen reader, mouse, whatever, I end up in a field and I erase the placeholder text, I have no idea what that is anymore. So it's always best to have a label. And it's always best to have even a visual label, so something you have to fight with the designers about. But there are people other than screen reader users who rely on those labels to inform them of what's going on. And by taking it away, it really makes it difficult to understand what the form elements are supposed to be.
Yeah, great points, Adam. Here's another use case. We have some icons, and we want them to be clickable. And obviously, there is no information going along with them, what clicking on them would do, because there's no text there. So let's say we have been asked to program for the question mark icon. And basically what it does is when someone clicks on it, it should take to the help and training website for Salesforce, for example. So we've seen people doing something like this, right? So they enclose the icon inside a div and then attach an on-click handler in JavaScript. This is really a bad idea because not only this is not what divs are meant for, divs are not really meant to be clicked, only buttons and links are, but it also is really, really inaccessible because there's no way to specify to a screen reader what clicking on that button would do. So let's see how we can fix that. Well, like I said, rather than doing that, going about with the hacky way, let's just use semantic markup. So we know that anchor texts are supposed to be clicked. So we wrap the icon inside of an anchor text, and that will take care of the requirement. Doing so also allows us to put an alternative text, and we can say what this link would actually do, and that's actually very helpful for screen readers.
The name of the game here is semantics, and it's really important for assistive technologies to understand what it is that the element is supposed to do. So when you use just a div and there's no semantics around it, the assistive technologies don't know, and all they can do then is represent the words to, say, a screen reader. But consider other assistive technologies. So Dragon Naturally Speaking is an assistive technology whereby a person can use their voice to dictate or even control the computer. They're able to, for instance, call up a list of buttons or get a list of inputs, or even, say, list boxes. But they can't do that if the element doesn't identify itself as what it's supposed to be. If it looks like a button, it should be a button. And there's really no way around that. The HTML spec exists for us to design semantic code, and we should.
Okay, moving along. Okay, going back to our demo form, let's say now we want to convey some very time-sensitive information, and we come across this a lot. Someone entered a credit card information wrong, and we want them to take action immediately. In those cases, the best advice that we can give is make use of the toast component. And by toast component, I mean this. You all have probably seen this. Why? Because we have taken care of a lot of the accessibility for you.
Yeah, so one of the things about this is that when there's time-sensitive information that comes up, it can oftentimes move the person's focus to the message, which can be useful in order to understand that message. But people then will forget that they need to put the focus back where it was. So this is just one of the things that we do in the toast component, is ensure that depending on the time delay, the message can be read to the person, their focus is moved so that the screen reader user can interact with and read it, either letter by letter or word by word, to understand what is going on. But then they're returned to whatever control it was that made this happen. And that's an important thing that people tend to forget. Also, our talk so far has been kind of, on the edges, and how do you use Lightning and these types of components. So ARIA is the markup really that's behind a lot of these components that make them work. And I saw a good quote the other day. It said that no ARIA is better than too much. And when it comes to these types of things, this is where you can often see far too much when people decide that they need to announce everything. So this is a really good component and a great way to convey the time-sensitive information.
Okay, so Adam, why don't you show everyone some of the best practices, through a demo?
Cool. We'll go into the Lightning experience with the screen reader. And this could be a little fast. Oh, dude.
Presentation activity.
There we go. And I'll even slow this down a little bit.
Rate 50%, 40%. Group. C1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7.
Okay, so here we are. This is on the Mac, and we're using VoiceOver, which is built in. Something that I guess we didn't really consider here is that one of the basic principles of all of this is that you should test. And this is a great way for you to test. There are some issues with VoiceOver. No browser screen reader combination is perfect. And so in the end, it's always best to ask somebody who's using it, did that work for you? Did that make sense to you? How could that have been done better? And these different examples that I intend to show today, they're by no means what you should do for every assistive tech user. So this is something that you can talk to somebody about or keep in your toolbox as an admin, that if somebody comes to you and says, hey, I have a situation, this wasn't working right with my screen reader, then maybe you will understand that a little better. So here we have just a basic list view of accounts.
Leaving table. Show filters toggle button.
And I'll show you what we did with the data table. So for a person who is a keyboard-only user and isn't using a mouse for whatever reason that might be, if they tab into a list of accounts, that list of accounts just continues to load until there are no more. So if you had a list view that matched, say, 500 accounts, really the only way for you to get from the top of the table to the bottom of the table is to tab. And in this example, there's a checkbox, there's a link, and there's a drop-down menu. So that's 3 tab stops for every account that would appear in the table. And so what we did is made it so that when you first tab into the table,
show more table 9 columns, 14 rows.
You can then navigate around.
Show more. Quick nav
on. Just
Quick
by
nav
using
off.
the arrow keys.
Leaving table.
Oops.
Skip to navigation.
And you can tab out of it to the bottom. So we'll
Leaving
shift
web
tab
content.
back in here.
Menu containing hidden bookmarks pop-up button.
So here's a good example of where VoiceOver is not
Account
always the
number,
best
account
screen
number,
reader.
account in it. Skip to
Okay.
navigation. Skip to main content.
So we'll skip down here.
Press. Skip to main content. Skip to navigation. Skip. Add favored but quick nav on. Table 9 end of banner. Quick nav favorite global help setup notifications button.
Okay.
Quick nav
I'm
on.
gonna try to skip down to the
Table
table
9
again.
columns. For item number.
Okay, so for a screen reader user, what's built in is the ability to navigate the table besides the fact that we created a nice data table for you to use. So for a screen reader user, I can tell it to virtually navigate
Quick nav off.
by column,
Sort column menu 1950. Sort account name.
and I can hear account name. Now, this example, we have an account number in the leftmost column. And the problem here is that the screen reader attempts to use that leftmost column as the row header. So as I arrow down, I'm going to hear the account number followed by the account name. And what I probably wanted was just the name. So
C1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 0. Visited. Simple account example. Simple account example.
So I'm used to a screen reader, and even still, that was pretty quick rattling off that account number. And it's almost like it isn't useful information to me right now. And what I would rather have is to hear just the account name. And what would be even more handy is if I were navigating a different column.
Sort billing state province.
Say I
Sort
want
phone,
to
blank. Sort type blank.
navigate down the type column and look for customer accounts.
CC 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Prospect.
I hear that it's a prospect, but I hear all of this gibberish first. And this is a really simple thing to solve. All we have to do is rearrange the table so that that first column then is the account
Quick
name.
nav on. Heading level
back up
1.
here.
Account number up. Quick nav off. Visited. Simple account example. Leaving tech show charts. Help button. Refresh button. List.
I'm going to go
import,
up and
new,
switch to a different
new,
view
account
here.
Number row header button. Edit nav items button. More show more. Pop-up button. Reports menu. Pop-up button. Reports. Dashboard. Campaigns. Contact. Account. Visited. Accounts menu. Pop-up. Quick nav on. Quick nav. New. Simple. Acme Express account. Account name row header. Menu items.
So in the account name row
Accounts
header,
breadcrumbs account number row header. New import refresh this list. Quick nav on. Table 7 call item number. Acme Incorporated 1.
so now I can hear the name of the account first, and then whatever column it is that I'm in.
Sort
So if we
account
come over here,
CC 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8 CC 1 2 and sort billing state prop sort type show more
we'll go
sort
to type again.
Burlington Textiles Corporation of America. Customer direct. Edge Communications. Customer direct.
So it's a lot cleaner for your screen reader user. But again, this is something that not everybody is going to want, and some people might really prefer that, that account number over on the left side. So just something that you can kind of talk over with your actual users. The other thing that we want to show is, I'll go up here and show an account.
Quick TX group. Sort account number. CD 400. Sort item number. Show more. Pop-up. Edge Communications. Burlington Acme Incorporated.
We'll just
1.
use Acme. It's a good one we all know. So in the basic out-of-the-box account example, you get this very clean display. It shows tabs and,
You're not on.
1.
sorry.
Sort account names item number 1. Sort account name sorted ascending. Visited. Group. Ship follow.
Okay.
More.
So you get the fields that are hidden in the tab sets. And this is very nice because it allows you to dig into just the information you need without the other pieces. But a screen reader user will oftentimes use the built-in find functionality to get to the field that they want. And if they're on a screen like this, the field that they want may not be visible. So say I were looking for the
Enter
billing
search
state.
text. Previous.
I'll just do a search for billing. Not there. And what we've done in order to make this work much easier is created a page layout which just has all of the fields. And then in the Lightning App Builder, we've removed the tab sets and all of the tabs and placed the related list as well as the detail information directly on the account page.
Reports menu. Reports. Dash. Contact. Accounts menu. Visited. Accounts menu. New account. Acme Incorporated. Simple account example. Group.
And we called it Simple Account. I do want to point out that in order to make the demo work, we did this by assigning this, this particular version of the account layout to a record type. That was just so that we could easily get to it. What you probably would want to do is assign that to a profile and then give the assistive tech users that particular profile. Again, be very careful here because not everybody is going to want it that way, and it does create this different interface that other people aren't using. So it can be helpful, but it can also be a hindrance, just something to talk to the users about. So in this case,
Billing address.
I can use the find command and jump straight to the
List 2
billing
items.
address. Sorry, that was a,
Enter search. Billing address.
there we go. The other thing that you can do here is that the sections can be expanded and collapsed. So you can give the user the ability to have everything on the page and give them the ability to work with a tab-like interface, but with the headings that they're used to. So screen reader users will often use the headings to jump around to most important information when they're available.
Quick nav off.
So I'll
Quick nav
up here.
Heading level 1 2 items. Simple account example. View account hierarchy button. Heading level 3 additional information button.
And then with this additional information section, I can
Press additional information.
collapse this
Heading level 3, system information button.
and skip over exactly what I want. So it's a very similar idea to the way that the tab sets work, but in a way that some of the screen reader users might understand a little bit better.
Heading level 3, additional information. Press additional.
So we also have the formula field
Banner.
on this page,
Enter search text.
and we'll look for priority here.
Customer priority star rating.
So this is the label, and it tells us that this is going to be customer priority. And the next thing I should hear is what that priority is.
Customer priority star rating image.
And I hear that there's a customer priority image, which that's awesome. I mean, now I know that it's there, but I don't know what it says. So here's the next example.
Customer priority rating accessible 4 of 20.
Customer priority rating accessible version. And then here is the actual star rating.
Medium customer priority image.
A medium customer priority image. So much more information is conveyed to the user in this instance, and you can very easily tell whether or not this account falls into your high, medium, or low priorities. So those are just a couple of the things
Microsoft Finder. Google Chrome.
that's available to you. And remember that all of this is going to be something that your users can help guide you. There's no need to ever understand every assistive technology. Even those of us who use them, we don't know them all. So if somebody comes with a new one, talk to them and find out what they need. So now we'll open it up if anybody has any questions.
Yeah.
So come on up to the mic.
Yeah, sorry. So if you can talk into the microphone.
Hi, my name's Kate. I'm working with Guide Dogs for the Blind, so I love this session. I'm learning a lot. One of the questions I had was, are console
Dog.
nav apps more or less accessible than the standard navigation apps?
I'd say that right now, some of the issue in console apps is understanding everything that's on the screen. There's a whole lot to convey there. So they're not necessarily less accessible, but there may be a little more of a struggle to work through at the moment.
And then my other question, and then I'll let other people ask before I ask more, is when you have the new Spring Lightning components came with accordion components, do those read much like the section headings, and do you find them more
Exactly.
or less accessible?
Yeah, so they're the same thing, sections and accordions. I think it's more of a visual styling, but they work in the same way, that they'll have the expand collapse, and there's ARIA markup, so it should announce whether it's expanded or collapsed. I don't know if anybody noticed that in Chrome with VoiceOver, that didn't happen. It is there, though, so users of, say, Chrome and JAWS or NVDA, they should be able to tell whether or not that's expanded, and by pressing on the button, they can collapse or expand it.
Thank you.
Anyone else? We have some T-shirts available. These are our all-star accessibility T-shirts that we're willing to give away for questions.
I was just wondering, for the Lightning component that uses I think it's the rich text format, you can enter an image, you can upload an image essentially. Is it possible to just add the alt text into that when the image uploads as basically a required field, so that people automatically do that?
And that's using the rich text component?
Yeah, so this is just a standard rich text component. You can add, you can format the text, but you can also add things like links and images. And when you add the image is added, but there's no alt text. So what you end up having to do is if you're worried about accessibility, you have to put all images in through the HTML script instead, to make sure that it has the alt text embedded.
I've not tried it.
Yeah, that's a good question. I'm actually not sure. We can talk and we can maybe see.
That would be great.
Yeah.
So while people are thinking about their questions, 'cause
There's one
Oh,
question.
Oh,
Sorry,
that's
go ahead.
okay. So we were working with the JAWS screen reader in Salesforce, and one of our users mentioned that when you go to a page, it would be nice to have like a description read of that page. Does Salesforce do that, or is there a way to have a workaround for that?
When you say description, do you mean like what sort of controls and elements are there?
Yeah, like when you enter the page, kind of like an overview of that entire page.
So the screen reader itself can do that, and they keep changing these things around in JAWS. I know that VoiceOver doesn't do it anymore by default, but it can read out and say like 15 buttons, 6 headers, 2 at level 2, 1 at level 1, and tell you that. And I think that it used to be a thing that people really liked, but a lot of people kind of ignored it every time it came up, and I believe that that's the reason that they've turned it off. But they didn't get rid of the feature, so it's still there. It's just something you have to adjust in your screen reader settings.
Got it. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Hi, my name is Ludwig. I'm working with the Bay Area Association for Disabled Sailors. Specifically, we're using Salesforce Communities in the Salesforce app or mobile browser. Are there any special considerations for mobile screen readers?
We actually have an accessibility specialist who works directly on our mobile product. So it is something that we take into consideration, and I think we've done a pretty good job with the mobile app. So if you're using VoiceOver on the iOS devices, or if it's TalkBack for Android, those are both assistive technologies that we test with.
Okay, so you would recommend the app over using a mobile browser?
Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't understand the question. Yeah, I do think that the app is probably a better experience, although it should really be sourcing the same. So if you get the mobile experience and it looks like the Salesforce mobile app, but in the browser, it should work the same, but then you're kind of relying on the browser technology and not where we're using some of the native pieces of iOS or of Android to convey the info.
Makes sense. Thanks.
Do you know when apps are put on the App Exchange, are they vetted by Salesforce in any way for accessibility?
I don't believe that right now that that's something that we enforce. I mean, certainly we want people to be a good citizen and create accessible apps, but it's not something that we actively are scanning.
And then more specifically for Salesforce Labs apps, are those held to an accessible standard?
A lot of our own stuff is things that we do with our components. And so then the components, accessibility is built in. It's not always. So even though you make an accessible component, putting everything together, it could have its issues. But I'd say generally that's something that we do think about.
Hi. Even though you can fill in required fields on some Lightning components, are there any tools available to kind of like run a lint through all of your components and say, oh, you have some problems here that you should, even if it's not required, like fill in this alt tag, you should fill in this special thing. Are there any tools available for all of us? Or even for devs specifically?
Yeah, do you want to talk about?
Yeah, that's a great question. I was hoping somebody would ask that. So there are actually a bunch of tools available. So once you have you have built a page, you can actually use Chrome. So Chrome itself, actually, let me just quickly demo that. If you go here, inspect, and you go to audits, and then you do perform an audit, and you can just select accessibility, and you can just run that audit, and it will find out what components didn't have, because it could be something with somebody forgot about it, or so that would actually tell you, and it will give you a score, and based on that score you can actually dig more, and what are some of the things you can fix and things like that. So it's built in Chrome. There are some other plugins available.
I
Do you
think
have some
that I have
recommendations?
Axe installed. as a plugin. If you look, but there's DQ Systems is a company that does assistive technology reviews, and they're pretty serious about this sort of stuff. And so they have built a project called AXE, AXE, which can give you a report of your web page, what's working, what isn't, where there are problems, if you've used the wrong type of ARIA, or you forgot an ID to link things together. And it comes as both a standalone, so you can put that into your continuous integration server and just have it come back and flag things that didn't work out right, or you can do a lot what Shrey showed here and just use a Chrome plugin.
Thank you so much. That's awesome.
Yeah. Yeah, just one last thing. This Lightning Design System has a whole accessibility patterns section. I think that's a really great read for anyone making new components or even using the existing ones. So I think we are out of time.
So before everyone leaves, we're always interested in user research. And so if you know anybody who uses assistive technology, or you're developing assistive technology, we have some cards up here. So if you're interested, if you could take that, and we definitely would love to hear feedback. We want to know what's working and what isn't.
Thank you.